Alright, good evening. Gonna do another stream, and I'm gonna start a project today that we'll see how far it goes. I thought I could draw some stuff from different shows that I've watched, and I want to start off with Senjougahara from Monogatari, because, well, a couple reasons. One, I really like the show, it's probably one of my favorites. And two, I already had references and knew what I wanted to draw for this one. So, we're going to get right into it. I don't know how much I'm going to be trying to experiment with this or not, but it should be fun either way. Unfortunately, I had a much busier week than I would have liked, so I didn't get a chance to stream earlier this week. But we're getting back to it now, so... there's a couple things about this drawing that are going to be challenging to me. Despite the fact I'm working right from reference. One thing is that... slight echo somehow. One thing is that I am working from profile, and that's not an angle I'm used to working in, so drawing someone facing to the side is a little difficult for me. And I'm talking mainly about the face here, obviously. We also have the fact that we're drawing her from behind, which is also not something that I'm used to. And I'm trying to do this like I should and plan it out. Kind of draw out the shape of the body before I continue to make sure that we're proportioned correctly and that everything is where it needs to be before I continue. I'm trying to learn from the mistakes that we made on the drawing of Yusuke that we did on the last stream, where I ended up really liking a lot of the ways that individual parts turned out, but some of the proportion was a little off. So if we can avoid that, that's going to be ideal. Something kind of like that. At least I think I'm within the boundaries of the page and everything, so we can go ahead and proceed with this. Now, in some ways, I'm overlapping a little bit. I already used Senjougahara as a reference for some different pose studies that I did on stream. But the focus of that was a lot more on the poses, and I wasn't really happy with how the drawings represented her. I didn't feel like it was very well conveyed who I was drawing, at least. So I wanted to give it another try, and try to make this one a little more recognizable. Focus more on the features than trying to do different studies on poses. And try to really get the expression the way that it should be, and try to make it easily recognizable. That's our goal here. I expect to try this expression a couple times at least. Getting it right is going to be a little tricky for me. But I think we'll get there. I'm going to try to get this hair correct. I'm trying to draw it very much how it is in this picture as opposed to just trying to interpret it. So I feel like if I do kind of a looser interpretation, I'm going to lose a lot of key points. There's some things that I might draw differently if I weren't trying to pay very close attention to how it actually looks here. I think that's going to help us be really clear and close on how this looks, and that should help us with our recognizability. I think we went out way too far there. Probably have to take that back in. Yeah, we're gonna have to bring that in a lot. Alright, I think that's a little better. Let's try that again. We'll probably come back and do that again. Yep, that'll do for now. Something went rather here. Did not work the way it was supposed to. One thing I definitely need to work on is going and doing that pre-planning that we did a little bit of here. But taking that and doing more of it, rather than just like a light sketch idea of where things are going to be, kind of go a little more in depth with it. And in addition to that, I really need to just do it more frequently so that I can actually get good enough to have it be useful. So my problem currently that I do is I'll go and I know well enough to start with it. And I go, yeah, you know, that looks like it's going to work. Then as I get into it, I keep changing things. And so now, like, that pose that I had sketched out there, where we were planning things out, it doesn't fit anymore. Like, it's not the correct size. So I just erased it entirely. Because it's no longer useful. Which means I need to either do it again, which I don't think is going to work here, or move on without it, neither of which are particularly great options. I feel like we could definitely get into trouble with these arms. And planning it out such that we can actually have the hands be where they need to be. That's better. That's better. Yeah, this hair is absolutely ridiculous. Which is part of what I really like about this character design too, so I'm not really complaining. I like really long hair. I'd have really long hair if I could manage it. One thing's for sure, this is definitely a lot more recognizable than I was doing the post-study. I like how this is coming along. Definitely struggling with some parts, but I think it's going pretty well. I definitely feel like it's recognizable, whereas when I was doing the post-study it was a lot more in my style as well rather than the hard-lined anime style. So I think that that's going to help a lot too. Yeah, I like the way this is coming along. Let's keep going. One thing I'm doing differently than about when I had done Yusuke is I'm trying to do all of the lines first. With Yusuke I literally went, as I make stray marks, I literally went down the page and just drew exactly what I saw and did the shading as I went down. Like I said, it worked out to some degree, but it also meant that when I did the head, and I can actually do a quick switch here and show you. So when I did the head, I did all of the shading first, and then I started doing the body, and by the time I got to like here, I realized that the head was too small. But I didn't want to have to get rid of everything I had done. So I just kept going. By drawing just the lines first, I'm still not doing what I should, which is I should be planning this out a lot better. Got a little bit here that I redid. But since I'm just drawing the lines, if I find that something isn't working properly, the proportions are wrong, it's a lot easier to go back and fix it. So far, it looks like it's turned out not too badly. A little worried, just as I'm working on this, this is looking a little too square. And a little too thin. And needs some work. Not too bad though. Salvageable. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea to be moving my sketchbook to draw lines and turning it like this. It could be a terrible idea and I just don't know. It doesn't seem to do too badly for me. It's not quite right. There we go. That's not too bad. Let's fix that up a little bit too. There we go. It's coming on nicely. About to try to draw hands. Everybody loves drawing hands, right? Oh wait. Nobody loves drawing hands. That's not true. I'm sure there are people out there that absolutely love drawing hands. It's their favorite thing to do. And I'm sure that they practiced a lot at it and enjoy it. I am not nearly so practiced. And hands present a lot of difficulty to me. Which is unfortunate, because they're kind of important in a lot of things when you're drawing people. They have hands. Hands tend to play a pretty large role in a lot of what I end up drawing, so... In this picture, it makes no sense without the hands. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think we're gonna stick with that. That seems fine. Let's see if we can get this other arm in the picture here. Another thing that's a little different with Senjougahara here that's different than what I normally do is I try not to draw my characters quite so thin. Though for Senjougahara she is supposed to be that thin. I'm not sure as I'm doing these programs if I want to get too much into what the anime is. Monogatari, by the way, is actually a whole bunch of series at this point. But it's originally based on a series of light novels, all of which have some sort of Japanese pun as the title. So the first one to air, and I think the first one to be published, is Bakemonogatari, which it's a combination of words. Bakemono is monster, and Monogatari is story. Roughly translated. So, English translations have often put it together as ghost story, Ghostory, to kind of convey the same idea. And well, to put it quite simply, Bakemonogatari and the rest of the Monogatari series is very strange. It's very unique, and I very much like it. But if you have trouble with some some of the ways in which anime can be weird, you might want to avoid it, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because it is very good. I really enjoy it. It's probably one of the best written shows that I've watched. I really don't need to hedge that all that much. It's probably the best written show I've watched. It is certainly very well written. The animators had a lot of freedom with it as well, because the story is mostly, the novels, they're mostly dialogue focused, and not a whole lot is given about the settings. Appearances are discussed, so they did have enough to accurately portray the characters. But places, events, that's not as heavily detailed. So they got to play around a lot. Monogatari has a very surreal feeling to it, which fits its subject matter. But it gets to do a lot of things and be very silly. Like have a lot of silly things going on, well, because you're really supposed to be paying attention to the dialogue and the characters, which is extremely well written. I am much less happy with that hand. Let's work on that a bit. But to give you a short idea without going too in-depth, because a lot of, I think, the strength of Monogatari comes in experiencing it and kind of going along with it as it develops. Monogatari follows loosely a boy named Koyomi Araragi, who at the start of the story is in high school. And he is a fairly normal person, but he encounters the supernatural. And the other people that end up involved here also intersect with the supernatural in some way. There are a lot of things to like about the Monogatari series, and maybe I'll discuss them on a future stream. We'll get a little more into things and get a little more kind of in-depth for those that have seen it. But if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it. If it ends up being too weird for you, which you'll know pretty quick, that's fine. Yeah, not everybody's gonna like everything. And what I find to be very enjoyable and entertaining might not be good for you. And there's no problem with that. Yeah, as expected, this hand is giving me a lot of trouble. It's in a bit of a strange pose. Which doesn't help, certainly. If it were normal pose, I'd still have issues drawing it, but at least then I'd be working towards something somewhat normal. Okay, I think that'll do. It's a little weird still, but it's not too bad. We'll stick with it. Maybe if I get fed up with it later and I keep looking at it and decide I don't like it, we'll go back. Can always go back and change things if I want. Ah, boy. Oops, I just realized I never updated that. Dealing with this stuff as we're doing it. Alright. Good enough. Sorry about that for the misleading caption there. I did remember to update it on Twitch at least, so your title there is correct if you saw it posted. And I updated the references and everything. Just forgot that one little part. I guess as far as streaming mistakes go, it could be a lot worse, so I'll take it in stride. We're still learning. It's all about learning. I'm going to try to sketch out a general idea here of what this skirt's doing so that I can see if I like that idea. Yeah, that seems about right. We can work from that. There's a whole lot of lines and stuff going on here, and I don't want to get too lost in it and not know what I'm doing. Having a basis at both ends is helpful. There's a couple things in this drawing that I'm not doing that are present in the source. So far, the only thing we've encountered are these, and you probably can't even see it on the little reference. Let's switch to the big one for a second here. There are these little blossoms, you know, whatever, cherry blossom leaves, or petals, I suppose, blowing in the wind. I'm not going to do those. I am going to be drawing at least some of the office/art supplies here. They are important to the character, so we are going to draw those. At least some of them. I don't know how many I'm going to fit into here and do that. And as we're drawing here, because I am bad at planning, you can't quite see it there, turn it around here, I am going to run out of room on the page. We're still like, this is the bottom of the skirt, and we're going to get to go down. So I'll have some space for those, but I'm not going to get all the way down to the bottom here. So by necessity, there are some of the different, you know, X-Acto knives and rulers and staplers that I'm not going to draw because I'm simply not going to have them on the page. But that's all that we're skipping. We are going to try to do at least some of those. We're going to try to put the shadows in. We're going to try to shade this in using the pencil here to give an idea of the tone, if not the color. So we're still doing a lot. Something kind of like that. Now, something you might wonder is, why would I go and decide to draw already existing characters and what frankly are already existing poses, and kind of attempt to imitate rather than create directly? I don't know that I've really adequately explained on stream. If you go to my Tumblr, which is flameinair.tumblr.com, you'll see some work that I posted. There's a little bit of an explanation there as well as to kind of the path that I've taken here to get to where we are. And essentially what happened was I started drawing back in junior high because I thought it was interesting and it was something that seemed neat to me. The ability to kind of create something from ostensibly nothing, tools that we already had, pencil and paper. It was also something that could be used to fill the time. And I mean, I watched cartoons, I watched anime back then, not that I think we really knew it as anime then, but we were watching it on TV, you know, and I thought it was really cool. Now, I did not approach it with a mindset of, I want to become an artist. I did not approach it with enough of a desire to improve to really do too much. I like drawing people, and I kept, you know, doing that. I didn't learn a whole lot, though, about how to do it well. Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm probably gonna need to come back to that, but... So I was drawing, but I wasn't really attempting to be an artist. And throughout junior high and high school, I kept drawing. I kept doing it, and I had friends that were into art as well, and they ended up a lot better than me, and some of them started a lot better than I did, like, you know, in a similar age range. They were already better than I was, so, which really was not saying much. And I kind of stopped drawing for the most part when I got into college, which I'm not really shy about my age. I graduated in 2008 from high school, went directly to college after that, and I graduated from college in 2013, December of 2013. So I am currently 25. I'm going to be turning 26 in not too much more than a month. Actually, today's the 8th. In 1 month. So, I didn't draw much in college. Occasionally, I would get the inspiration to do so, and I would draw. But for the most part, I was not doing any art in college. I did photography in college, which was really fun. Something I greatly enjoyed, something I got into in high school. Just didn't end up moving ever. After I got out of college, I did even less with art. And part of that was circumstantial. My circumstances recently changed. And so I decided that I wanted to get back into this. I wanted to do more with this. Yeah, I'm much older than when I was doing this previously. And we're talking 7-8 years ago that I was last drawing with any sort of frequency. So we're older now. And even though I wasn't drawing and I wasn't improving my skills artistically necessarily, I was still following a lot of things that relate to art. You actually can't see what I'm doing there at all, can you? Let's try to fix that. There we go. Now, what do we think of that? No, still something wrong there. To give you an idea, I started drawing again. Oh, jeez. Well, it's all in the sketchbook. On November 26th. So November 26th well, I was going to say this year, but now it's not. It's 2016 now. Last year. But back at the end of November is when I started to draw again. And like I said, it was a conscious effort. I was looking for something creatively that I could do since my circumstances had changed. And I thought about it and I'm like, this seems good. Let's do this. So we started drawing. And before that, the last thing I had in the sketchbook before that drawing on 11/26 was in May of 2015. I had 2 drawings in May. And before that I had something without a date on it. And the thing that was dated before that, on the page immediately prior, was from 2013. So I spent a lot of time not drawing, definitely. Which means I'm coming into this having basically only ever doodled, essentially, in high school and in junior high, a little bit in college. And kind of deciding that we were going to do something this time. I'd thought about it before. I greatly enjoyed doing photography. But something like this always had appealed to me, the ability to create something without any sort of pre-existing object. With photography, you can do a lot with photography, don't get me wrong, and you can convey ideas perfectly well with a wide variety of media. Photography is no exception to that. But I always enjoyed the idea of creating something that did not need to be based on something I was already looking at. That is a skill, and that is a different skill. Of being able to take something and frame it in such a way and present it in such a way that it conveys an idea. It's a good skill to have. And I absolutely recommend photography to anyone and everyone who has the ability to, and given the state of technology right now, everybody has the ability to. Technology is so prevalent now that it's very easy. You don't need amazing tools in order to produce good work, especially if you're just trying to learn something. You don't need the most amazing tools out there in order to do it. And I definitely kept that in mind when I was getting back into drawing, and one of the reasons that I decided to get back into this is that I have everything I need for it. I need to move this hair down. And I'm not using amazing tools. These are art tools that I'd picked up before. Like this is just eraser. It is an eraser stick. Otherwise I have this cheap mechanical pencil that I've worn the eraser down on, hence eraser stick, and this regular wooden pencil that I haven't even sharpened because I'm using it for the eraser, which is half gone already. I have a problem with erasing. So You don't need amazing tools in order to pursue art. They can help, absolutely. And your art is going to be better if you're not struggling against your tools. But there is a certain point at which you don't have the abilities to correctly utilize the tools that are available to you. So I'm still at the level that these tools that I have, which is to say a pencil, erasers, paper, I still have a lot that I can do to improve my usage of these things. And I've learned a lot doing this stream that I didn't know before. So previously, I had only ever used my eraser to, pretty much what I'm doing here, erase lines, which seems obvious. I guess that is what erasers are for. Well, yes, that is what erasers are for. But you can also use an eraser to create highlights in an area that is already shaded. And in fact, if you shade in an area, and then use your eraser, you can actually create an effect that looks similar to light in a painting. That's something I learned from trying to draw from magic cards. It was both on Archangel of Thune and Chroma Angel of Fury. And I really liked the way it worked on a Chroma. I really wasn't sure if it was going to. But I looked at it and I went, technically, as I'm doing this, some of these beams of light coming out of the sword, and I'll flip to that real quick here, in a talkative mood it seems. Some of these things are darker in tone, in color, on this painting. But I thought it would look better if I didn't do it that way. So I took this eraser tool that I've only used for erasing lines, and I drew with it. I drew beams of light. I really liked the way it turned out. It's not something I'd never considered doing with an eraser before. It's something I'd never learned. But you learn through experimentation. So I started off this long-nosed explanation by saying, you might be wondering, why am I drawing characters that already exist? Why am I going about this in such a way that I'm not creating work just out of whole cloth? And the short answer to that, now that I've already given you a long answer, is I don't have the skills yet to produce the original work that I'd like to produce. And I don't know what original work I want to produce. I don't leave enough space for this thing. Sorry. Make it work. So I am training myself here. I'm learning to do new things by reproducing work that is already done. So I could be trying to develop a character, or I could be trying to learn how to draw a character that already exists. What are some of the benefits there? Well, in developing a character, you're learning a creative process skill. You're saying, well, I want to convey X thing, and so I want my character to look like this. Whether or not you're doing that intentionally is up for grabs, perhaps, but you're trying to convey something with your character design, even if it's just, these are traits that I like. But right now what I want to do is I want to learn how to draw different things. So the problem that I had before when I was doing art is I would always draw pretty much the same thing. I didn't have a lot of variation in pose. I didn't have a lot of variation in body type or in characteristics. I was just drawing a thing to draw a thing. And right now, my creative skill set is such that that's my go-to, that's my default. If I just attempt to draw without anything really in mind, any goal, anything that I'm trying to do, I'm going to draw something that's not all that interesting, not all that challenging. And what I want to do is I want to challenge myself, and I want to do things that I'm not prepared to do, that I'm not familiar with. So if I were to just be sketching randomly right now, there's very little chance that I would draw somebody doing this. I'm not likely to draw a skirt where somebody's holding it up at the sides. Now there are things I like that I might replicate. Senjougahara has very long hair. I like that. So the person that I was drawing would probably also have long hair because I like long hair. But definitely a lot of things about this pose are different. Hell, even if I do like Senjougahara's hair because it is long, there are a lot of things in her hair that I would not normally be doing. And specifically I'm thinking here of a lot of the parts in her hair around her bangs that have that square end. That's not something that I would usually do. So by doing that, I have to force myself to try to learn how to draw that in order to accurately recreate this character. I want to make a drawing where you can look at it and go, I know who that is. And that's a skill that I'm working on. Beyond that, it wouldn't really be of any good to me if I created a character that I really liked and then couldn't consistently draw them. It's not going to be very useful if, I create a character, it's like, well, this is this character. And then because I have no practice in trying to recreate things, not be able to recreate my own character. That's fine if I'm just doing random drawings. If I'm like, oh, we're gonna draw a girl today, or we're gonna draw a boy today, and this person's gonna be wearing winter clothes because it's cold today. If we're just drawing random characters, that's fine. I don't need reproducibility as much. Now, I still do if I'm trying to convey something specific, even what I said there, where it's, this person's going to be wearing winter clothes because it's cold out, it's winter where I am. Well, you need to be able to draw a jacket. If you don't know how to draw a jacket, if you don't know how to reproduce an image that looks like a jacket, you're not going to be able to convey that. So I'm attempting to draw characters that I enjoy, that I feel have a distinct enough style to be recognizable, and my goal is to make them recognizable. If I can draw this and you can go, that's Senjougahara from Monogatari, then that means that I was able to take these traits and reproduce them well enough. And that's a skill that takes time to build. So I guess another way to kind of shorten up what I'm saying here into a little bit more of a digestible format, a little more bite-sized. I'm attempting to increase my artistic vocabulary. And really, that's what we're doing. Trying to increase the number of things that I know how to draw. The more that I draw, the more that I know how to draw. Keep talking about this hair. How about we draw the rest of it, huh? What do you think? Oh, I could cheat so bad on this. I could have her hair cover up her hand. We're not going to do that. Plus, I've already drawn the hand, but that's not what we're going to do here. There's a little trick that I'm not sure if it's good or not, but I'm turning the page along with this because I'm trying to kind of make a similar curve, a kind of natural curve to this hair. So as I'm going, I'm just doing kind of whatever curve that my wrist feels is the most natural here, and drawing it. And we end up with that. And yep, I went too far and this is gonna go off the page. That's alright though. That's not too bad. We're moving this hair around a little bit here. Just because I ran too far off the page. Shrink that down a little bit. That desire to increase my artistic vocabulary is part of what this idea is about. The first part of my title down there, now that I've updated it, is things I've watched. It started with an idea of, not actually this character, one that we will get to. I was thinking about a show and I'm like, oh, I should draw that character from that show. She has she has a good design, she's interesting, she should be recognizable. I'm like, what if you did something crazy, Zachary? I say revealing my name, which I have not yet done on stream. I think. I say, let's do something crazy. What if you made a list of all of the anime that you've watched? And I mean all of it. Not just the stuff that's good, like Monogatari, but stuff that's bad, that you watched for some reason. Maybe I liked it, maybe I didn't. There's stuff I watched that I did not like. And like some of that's just, yeah. I watched it because it was on, and like I was younger, or I was watching it with someone. And I'm like, sure, we'll watch that, whatever. Alright, there's some hair here, huh? That is some hair. Like, Monogatari is really good. I'd recommend it to anybody who is into some kind of paranormal stuff or really good writing in general. Very good characters. There is a plot line to it. It is somewhat plot driven, but the story is much more character driven, which is stuff that I really like. There's a little bit of action in there. It's all done superbly. The animation is excellent. But I'm straying from the point. Not all of it's good that I've watched. A lot of it I watched a while ago. Some of it I hardly remember. Like I said, some of it I just didn't enjoy. Maybe it wasn't for me. There's a show I watched somewhat recent. It's called Hayore Nyaruko-san. I watched the entire first season of that show. I knew about, I don't know, 2 or 3 episodes into that show that I really didn't like one of the characters. One of the 2 main characters. And yet I watched that entire season. And I reference that one, I think of that one, because that was one where literally I downloaded the last episode of it, knowing that I did not like the show. Finished watching it, realized I had watched the entire season of that show, and asked myself, why did I even watch this? Like I knew well beforehand that I didn't like it. Yet we watched it to completion. Back when I had more time, I suppose. So I'm going to turn this way so we can kind of see it here. I think that that's not too bad as far as an initial outline goes. I think it might be time to go and shade this. Fixing up some of my sketchy lines on the hair here. There are some shows that I watched where I'm like, you know, this isn't great. Like I can look at, there's a show I watched called Paradise Kiss, which is, I'd say, like it's probably at best a 3 out of 5. It's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I really liked that show. But when we get to drawing that character, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like, oh yeah, you should watch this show. Like, I'm sitting here telling you, you should watch Monogatari. You should at least try. I understand it's not going to be for everyone. But if you like anime, if you watch different stuff, if you like supernatural stuff, if you like character-driven stories, it's definitely worth the try. So, it's worth looking into. Like with Paradise Kiss, I'm probably not going to be recommending that as highly. I really liked it. If you're into fashion design, you might like it. Well, if you're into fashion design, you'll probably like it. But it's not great. And there's some where it's interesting. I watched them long enough ago. I wasn't extremely invested in them, such that I'm like, I know I finished that show. Like, I watched X amount of that show. I don't really remember too much about that show. There's a lot of different things. The other really good thing about this program, and this, I keep calling it a program, but this project of sorts, is it's going to force me to draw a bunch of different characters. And I'm always going to try something that is representative or iconic in some sort of way. So, with Senjougahara here, this is a very iconic, well-known kind of thing for her. You're going to see this pop up a lot, this idea. In fact, they made a figure that was this pose. So it gives me more poses to draw. It gives me more characters to draw. Different features. And it's going to give me some varied body types and characters to do. So like, Senjougahara is pretty much in the same area of the other things that I tend to draw. Let's be honest. But I made a list. And like on my list, something that a lot of people might not realize at first is anime, because if you watch anime, like there was a time that you went and were seeking it out, but especially within my generation, a lot of our first exposure to it was actually English dubbed on television. So one of the ones on my list that I watched at least one season of is Dragon Ball Z. I feel that it is quite a different kind of body type to be drawing a character from Dragon Ball Z than to be drawing Senjougahara. Call me crazy, but I think that looks a little different. Another show that I have on there that's a bit less extreme perhaps, but is likely to get me to expand my horizons. Another good show that I saw on TV first, but I identify more easily as anime, is Cowboy Bebop. I think I'm probably going to draw Spike when I do that. Spike's pretty different than Senjougahara too. Wow. Maybe I should just try to draw a pair of scissors and not draw that specific pair of scissors. You know what? I think we've been doing this We've been going for about an hour. I'm going to take a quick break, and we will be back shortly. And then I'll keep drawing various little implements here, and we'll talk more. So, back in a minute. And we're back. Speaking of things I've learned from streaming, I've learned that I should take breaks. I apparently have not learned yet to actually have a timer going. Because I said it had been at least an hour. I think it's been around an hour and a half. But I don't remember. One day I'll remember to actually set a timer and have it going so I know how long I've been streaming. So we're going to try to draw a pair of scissors. This time, rather than trying to reproduce the exact pair of scissors that is there. We're just going to try to draw a pair of scissors. Because our previous scissors ended up looking real dumb. Yeah, I've learned that the "you should really take breaks" thing on my drawing of chroma, because I went for 4.5 hours or something with like 1 5-minute break. And I was really into that drawing at the time. And I finished and I'm like, I can't even brain anymore. So we learned. It's good to take breaks. Once every hour is kind of what I'm going for. Those end up really tiny. Little baby scissors. I should probably make them bigger. I like the way that looks though. We can reproduce that. You'd think out of everything in this drawing that a pair of scissors would not be the thing that I need to draw 3-4 times, but sometimes the strangest things give you trouble. I'm much less concerned about the details of our paper and stationery and office supplies and such being accurate. The important thing is that they are here and that you can see them. That is going to be enough to convey this character. There we go. That is a pair of scissors. I promise. Office supplies. Apparently something I need more practice drawing. And I'm definitely going to be taking some of like the things that are here and directly drawing them in the same spots. Just because the composition works perfectly fine in this picture and I don't see any reason to get too fancy and try to change it up. Staplers. It's very important that I draw these. If you haven't watched the show, you're not going to know why. That's fine. Just trust me when I say the stapler is important. Also, unfortunately, one of the most complicated pieces of this. I mean, staplers are not exactly a simple machine, I suppose. But definitely compared to, like, a ruler, which there's like a ruler over here and there's one here. I suppose we should take another look at that just to give you an idea. Pull that up. And I don't know if I'm going to draw all the staplers there in this, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 showing here. I don't think we're going to do that. We are going to draw more than one. Definitely this blue guy, probably the yellow one over to the right. We'll see. We'll see how staplers work out for me. We'll see how many I end up drawing. Trying to get my reference to zoom in a little so I can focus on the details here, and it is just being difficult. Alright, not worth it. Moving on. There's a lot of detail in these staplers. Like I said, it is important to the character, so I suppose that is correct. And again, a good reason to be drawing from existing material. If I were just sketching it, I would not be drawing something with so many little detailed parts everywhere. With different perspectives on them, then I don't know how to draw. And so doing this forces me to learn to expand my skills. In this case, my stapler drawing skills. And who knows, depending on the setting and circumstances that I decide to draw one day, I might need those stapler drawing skills. Now, I'm not saying that, one day the president's going to be kidnapped. The only way to save them is to draw a stapler. My stapler drawing skills will save the day. But I might find it useful one day to be able to draw a stapler. So the important question of, is this recognizable as a stapler? I actually want to move this pen a little bit, because I think it interferes with our stapler recognition. But I think this might be visibly stapler. Maybe. I think it's alright. pen. Yep. Draw something here that I really should have. Showing those big square erasers. I'm alright with being a little more sketchy with these things. Like I said, their exact details are not extremely important. As long as the object itself is recognizable, its exact details do not need to be included. I missed a stapler. There's another stapler that I missed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 staplers. Again, I don't think we're going to end up drawing it all. It's funny because I'm drawing all of these. Right now I'm drawing rulers, and I should really probably be using one to draw the straight lines of them. Take a look here. See if I lost that somewhere or if it's here somewhere. What? You'll do fine. This is my usable ruler right now. I don't know where the one that I grabbed last time is. Okay. So, add card from Innistrad. You are the ruler of today. If you weren't aware that I like Magic the Gathering from the fact that I've already done 2 pieces of art from it, I like Magic the Gathering. I suppose I could be primarily into the art of it. The art is certainly something I enjoy, but I enjoy the game itself. Yep, that turned out alright. There, now you can see the bottom. Knife. Knives, also important. Go. Need some stuff over here. This one's also knife. There were a lot of knives in this one. I think we're going to change this one. Turn this into a pen. Yep. Open. Let's go over here. We're going to do these scissors come up in the bottom frame. go. We're getting there. I'm going to take a quick look for something. I mean, a really quick look here. Alright. Looks like no. I was trying to see if I had a stapler easily on hand to reference. I do not. So we'll go and attempt to draw the stapler that's here. So I want a stapler in this approximate area. I want this one to be bigger than that one. It's closer up. That also lets us draw more of the details, though, which is good and bad. Good because it allows us a little more opportunity to just draw stuff to show that it is a stapler. So the more details that I can show, the more likely it is to be recognized as a stapler. I'd better hope the president never gets captured and can only be saved by somebody drawing a stapler. Because if that's the case, we are in trouble. If my stapler's drawing skills are the ones that are on the line, it's not looking too good. It doesn't help that I've decided to draw my stapler in different spots, but I'm sticking to it. So the additional challenge of drawing a stapler different than the stapler that I'm looking at in a lot of ways. I'm not thrilled with my stapler drawing skills. I mean, on some level, it's like, well, this is my first attempt to draw a stapler. Never before had occasion to do so. It's not looking great. Yeah, we're gonna retry that stapler in a minute. Instead, I'm gonna go over here. Actually, I'm actually gonna go over here. Changing it up a little bit. Make my life a little easier. Rather, don't make my life unnecessarily hard. Let's go over here. Really, the thing that's killing me about these staplers is perspective. Alright. That kind of looks like a stapler. That stapler is actually the one that is over here on the source. This guy. I put it over here because I have space there. Really, it's below where I would be on the page. But I wanted to make sure that we actually got enough staplers on the page, which is, I've decided, at least 3. And given how much trouble they're giving me, probably no more than 3. Currently at 2. Try that hair that I ended up erasing. Alright. The smudging. That is one painful thing about working the medium that I do. I smudge it everywhere. Alright. Stapler. Yes, I am sketching out the parameters of a stapler. Trying to make sure that my stapler anatomy is properly lined up. Simplified the stapler, and I think that works. That looks like stapler. And it only took me 4 tries to draw that stapler. All the things I thought I was going to have problems with on this, I did not expect to have so much trouble on it. again, this is why it's good that I'm trying to do these different characters, because if I were drawing my own character, after probably the second time of failing to draw a stapler, I would have gone, you know, maybe let's not, and done something else. We've learned valuable stapler drawing lessons today. Hands, I expect to have trouble with different expressions and trying to get details correct. I expect trouble with that. Stapler, I was not prepared apparently for the level of skill involved in drawing a stapler. Stuff. Get something here. More in there. All right. I think that is a sufficient amount of things falling. And 3 staplers. No more than 3 staplers. So, let's go and try to add some tones into here. So something to indicate that even though we're not in color, that we understand that different colors exist. Let's try to add some shadows in while we're here. Do a little shading. And this will let us convey a little depth. I'm not trying to go too crazy here. I'm not going to do a whole lot of blending. In fact, a lot of it I do kind of want it to be clearer shapes, especially since our lines are so defined. I don't mind being pretty clear about our shading here. Going with kind of a stronger light than I'm used to, I suppose. that. Sorry about going off frame there. We're just shading in the hair here to give it a base tone, and then we're gonna go from there as far as giving it highlights and shadows. I'm gonna do highlights with the eraser. I like the way it looks, especially on the hair. Even if we're shading this a little bit differently than normal. There's not a whole lot of highlight. We've got a little bit here. Got some down here. That's about it. We're doing a lot more with the shadow. A little bit there. Some stuff here. Filling all this in with shadow. A little bit back here. This is just adding in some depth to the hair. I don't have a light source in this picture like I did with chroma, so I'm not nearly as worried about following one, even though I should be. I should have a consistent light source that I'm trying to follow. I'm also basing this on a reference, so I'm relying a little bit on them to follow their light source, whatever that is. And I realized that I missed a little thing of hair here. Let's do that. By a little thing of hair, I mean this ridiculous. It's thin. Something kind of like that. There. Bring that a little more natural into it. There we go. That's good. There we go. So we'll continue along with our shadows here. I'm getting a little creative with it. We're not following the shadows that are in the picture exactly. When I was doing Yusuke, I did exactly just every shape that was there, I just drew it exactly. This one, we're being a little more loose with it. We're still using it as a guide, we're still shadowing in pretty much the same areas, but I'm not so worried about getting it perfect. Yep. I'm liking that. That's looking good. Let's go ahead and move on to the skirt here. I think we're going to make these panels pretty dark just to differentiate them from the hair. They are darker than the hair, but I think I'm going way darker than they would normally be just to make sure that they look different. Since I'm working in essentially one color with different intensities, I need to make sure I'm using that differentiation in the way that I can in order to break apart different areas. So trace out these shadows a little bit. Get this one to kind of come along this line and comes down this way, like that. Because this is going to help take this shape here, which is a little weird looking, and it should make it be pretty clear what's happening if I do this right. So this situation in which I want to get these shadows on the same place as on the original. So that's going to help us really make this look correct. Go ahead and start shading this in just a bit. So I can see it. And I think that tone is about what I'm looking for. Lighter tone. Let's finish up with this. Just add that lighter tone in. A little intensity there. Clean up my smudging before we shade. Comes pre-shaded, all the same shade. Alright. Now let's go back to shading. Key here is that there's very little in the way of actual shadows on this. This is facing a different way than the rest of the skirt. So hopefully when I shade this in, I think that works. Yep, I like it. trouble as I get down to the bottom of the page there. Oh my god, we made that work. Like I said, I'm really not as concerned with the details on these guys. They just need enough that you can kind of tell what's going on them. And I think that's pretty much going to get us there. All right. So that, and let's see if I can. Yeah, that is going to be our picture. For Monogatari. Senjougahara. I screwed up my account. That's fine. So there's the whole page. And I'm pretty happy with this. I think this turned out really well. Definitely learned a lot about trying to draw staplers and failing. But that's how it goes sometimes. But overall, pretty happy with it. I think it went pretty well. So we are going to go ahead and here, save that. And there we go. I think it's recognizable. I think who it is, and I think the relevant pieces are there. And I'm not too unhappy with it. I like it. So that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. See you soon.